Hey guys, and welcome to a special, soft reboot of the Beyond the Box Office podcast. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by Sam. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Kind of getting the band back together for a bit for this kind of reboot of the podcast we used to do years ago. The Facebook page is doing really well. That's Beyond the Box Office on Facebook. So I guess what better time to start than with the conclusion to the Skywalker saga?
Yeah.
Well, or the Palpatine saga, to be fair.
Yep. Episode 9 has just dropped. Come out a few days ago now. Everyone's sort of had a chance to see it. I didn't get to see it until today, which is Sunday as of recording this. But you see it midnight show?
I did. I was there at midnight with all the other sweaties, and
Yeah.
there's something special about a midnight screening for Star Wars. And I know obviously not everyone can make it because of like kids and other commitments. I was actually quite surprised. There were children in the audience at midnight. So there are parents sharing their love of Star Wars, and there is a whole new generation out there that love this 42-year-old saga.
It's rather
However,
that or they couldn't find a babysitter and school's finished now.
yeah, they could. Yeah. Well, there's a little kid dressed as Darth Vader, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think perhaps this is the end for Star Wars. I think. I don't know. I know that people sort of like always talk about Star Wars is dead, Star Wars is over, and then you look around, it's Star Wars is still everywhere. But is it everywhere with any kind of substance or meaning anymore?
It's the end of Star Wars as we know it. You know, the Skywalker.
As we know it, yes.
Yeah, the Skywalker saga is now over. You know, everything that will come from now is almost going to be extended universe stuff. You know, you've got The Mandalorian. There's a load of sort of like side films, like side storyline films and all of that are planned. To be honest, it's probably be a good opportunity for us to sort of do a little bit of a rewind on where we was at before this film came out. But yeah, pretty much I've been out of the loop, the Star Wars loop, pretty much since The Last Jedi. And other than sort of the one or two trailers, official release trailers for this film, I avoided everything on the internet. I muted everything. I muted everything to do with Star Wars. So I literally went into this blind. What about you?
I think that was the best way to do it. I've not been in the loop. I've been sort of like up to my shoulders in the mud since The Last Jedi hit, and unfortunately, as much as I did try to avoid it, doing what I do, doing what we do, you kind of do have to keep on top of things. And luckily, you were able to step back on that one. But the spoilers were out there. The leaks that were out there all kind of came true mostly for this film. And I'm not sure whether or not that had any impact on my enjoyment of it. Luckily, I only caught a couple of the leaks. I was very eager to make sure I avoided as many as possible.
Yeah, we should say right now this is obviously going to contain spoilers. So.
Oh yes, this is full spoilers. As far as I'm concerned, you can be watching this 4 or 5 days, or listening to this 4 or 5 days after a Star Wars film's come out. Come on, you should have seen it by now.
Yeah,
Star Wars. So yeah, obviously going back to like 2014, I was like massively hyped when because we went to that Star Wars convention, didn't we?
Yeah.
And they were shooting just down the road, and there was this mega hype around The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens hype was Endgame level hype. Last Jedi was mega hype because yes, The Force Awakens, it's a soft reboot, remake of A New Hope, but that I hadn't seen that hype for a very long time since the prequels, since Episode 1 was gearing up to hit theaters. And very similar to The Last Jedi. Last Jedi had mega hype as well because of the goodwill generated by The Force Awakens. Whereas this time, this is not just a Star Wars film. This is the conclusion to a trilogy and a conclusion to a 9-film saga. And the hype for this feels less than it did for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
It feels really blunt. And I guess if anyone was to say, what were the fans' feelings towards The Force Awakens? It will be that, yes, there are people that didn't really like it because it was so derivative to the original Star Wars from '77, but but the action to The Last Jedi, it kind of shows how much people did enjoy that film and at least loved it for as a beginning.
Mm.
And yeah, there was massive issues of kicking the can down the road. So like, all the mystery boxes. Don't worry, that's another story for another time. We'll get to that. But unless you loved The Force Awakens, I don't think you would have been so destroyed by what Rian Johnson brought to the table. Whereas now, when people talk about The Rise of Skywalker, even people that really, really hate this film aren't talking about it in the same vitriol as Last Jedi, because Last Jedi's kind of soured it and they no longer care.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't. I mean, going back to the Last Jedi, I didn't absolutely hate it. I wasn't like they ruined Star Wars for me, but you know what? I just didn't enjoy it. It just what I was just sitting there. I think I was about an hour into the film, and I just sat there and I looked around. I looked at my wife, and I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. There's just
Yeah.
something about it I'm not enjoying. And after I didn't come out being like start trolling on the internet
No,
about
no.
hating that. I was just like, oh well. And it was like a weird after effect because I didn't, as I said, go around trolling and start slagging it off online. It just kind of that Star Wars flame inside of me just sort of went out, and off the back of that, I didn't see Solo at the cinema, which is the first Star Wars film I've never seen at the cinema. Obviously, I've seen the original trilogy and the 1997 re-releases,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I still haven't seen Solo. It's on Sky. It's on Sky Cinema Demand. It's sort of sitting on my TV next to me. I still haven't watched it. Um, just the light went out inside of me. It was just a weird reaction to it. I just didn't enjoy the film.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I've got with the film is it's not about the bold new direction, because I feel so much of it is lifted from Empire and Jedi anyway,
Yeah.
that I don't really think. I mean, I wish I could watch The Last Jedi and understand what other people are talking about when they say it's this grand, bold, vision that takes Star Wars in a whole new direction, because I don't see it. All I see is a film with terrible your mama jokes,
Hmm.
jokes that punctuate every, like they deflate every scene. So something really amazing happens and they feel the need to throw in a Spaceballs joke, and that, I think I get frustrated with The Last Jedi, because some parts of it I think that's brilliant, that's a great idea, or that looks really great, and then some of it is just inert or just infuriating. And I don't understand how it does anything different by just not doing anything. It's not that it subverts your expectations, yes, because it doesn't do what you think it's going to do, but then it doesn't do anything of value in its place.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, you think this is going to be? No, it's not going to be. Oh, well, what are you going to do instead? Oh, no, just we're moving on now. All right. And it didn't help that I had just binge watched 4 seasons of the new Battlestar Galactica just before I went to see The Last Jedi at the cinema. And Battlestar Galactica is the perfect example of a myriad of strong, dynamic characters involved in a space chase.
Hmm.
Right, so I can't look at The Last Jedi and I look at it and just see, okay, well, it doesn't forward the story anywhere. It doesn't really grow the characters. It regresses some of the characters. It just trolls the audience. And I've seen everything it tried to do done better in Battlestar Galactica.
Hmm. That's the one thing with the Last Jedi that really sort of nulled that flame was the one thing that got me with the Force Awakens was the relationship between Rey and Finn.
Mm,
And like when having the Rey and Kylo Ren having the lightsaber battle at the end, and then Finn comes in and he just picks up the lightsaber and starts going at it. You sort of cared for these characters and you cared
yeah.
for that relationship, and you almost champion them at the end of the film. Well, you was championing them at the end of the film, and then in the Last Jedi, it was just like, no, we're not going in that direction. We're going to split them up. We're going to just let them do their own things, and they're going to go down these paths.
Mm,
And I think like, obviously, we should start talking about Rise of the Skywalker.
Yeah.
Of Skywalker. I keep calling it Rise of the Skywalker for some reason.
Loads of people are calling it Rise of the Skywalker. It is actually quite funny.
I was going to tweet earlier about now watching, and that was the first hashtag
Rise
to
of the
come up. Rise
Skywalker,
of the Skywalker.
Why has that come from? That must have come from somewhere.
I think it's just the thing of
Is it
a Star Wars thing, isn't
that
it?
film,
Revenge
Rise of the
of
Foot
the Sith.
Soldier?
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi. I think it's just it's just a Star Wars thing. But yeah, I completely forgot where I was going with that now.
If we move on to the Rise of the Fall of the Skywalker, Palpatine.
Revenge of the Skywalker.
Revenge of the Palpatine Skywalker, Raise of Palpatine. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah. Right, okay. But straight off the bat, just as we get into the Rise of Skywalker, obviously you're not you're not like besties and that, but you've had a past relationship with Jurassic Park, haven't you? And like the Jurassic World, Colin Trevorrow, because you've done loads of work for like the Jurassic World films. So I'm looking at the Rise of Skywalker, and I'm upset because all I can see is, well, if Rian Johnson had done all three films, fair enough, whatever, but it's like Colin Trevorrow would have been on the same page as J.J. Abrams. And if J.J. Abrams and Colin Trevorrow had worked together on all three films, or it had been J.J. all the way through, it would have worked. But this one, it just doesn't work because of that Last Jedi installment, smack back in the middle. And Rian Johnson has obviously thrown away all of J.J.'s story threads. He's just snipped them off and gone, no, I'm not going to worry about them. Yeah, which is fair enough, because JJ does leave too much open, but that shouldn't be an excuse just not to do anything. That's almost a luxury of, do you know what? I'll grab those three, the most interesting ones, and I'll run with those, and then we'll maybe sort of like just forget about the ones that sort of like aren't really that interesting or don't really have any more scope. But that's so. I'm looking at this, that J.J. Abrams had to do far too much with this film. It needed to be 4 hours long, or it needed to be two films. And I can understand why they didn't do that, because the tradition of Star Wars, it comes in threes. But I also think in the marketing run, had they announced the runtime of Rise of Skywalker hitting 3.5, 4 hours, or had they say it's going to be split into two, that would be an absolute sign to everyone who does love The Last Jedi. And I'm not going to take that away from them. There's a film that they love. I don't love it, and I wish I could understand why they did. That would have been the nail in the coffin, wouldn't it? Before the film even hits the screen, we'd have known what we now know, that this film is basically The Last Jedi virtually never happened, almost, except for major plot points obviously did happen. Luke is still dead, but Rise of Skywalker tries to ignore that as much as possible, doesn't it? And just pick up straight after The Force Awakens.
It almost feels like the first 20 minutes of Rise of Skywalker is like a Netflix previously on Star Wars. And it's like that first 20 minutes is almost like a catch-up clip show of a film that never happened. Almost like what if Abrams had done the second film, almost what he would have like played out as the majority of the plot in the second film.
Well, I do feel that the pacing is obviously relentless. It is absolute rapid fire, and therefore the editing is very chop. And I was watching it, and I was thinking, where have I seen something like this before? And I couldn't quite think, and then I realised in Diamonds Are Forever. I know it's weird. The opening, the intro to that Bond film picks up straight after On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it's Bond tracking down Blofeld. Exactly. And the whole first act feels very much like, with all the fetch quests and the now they're there, now this person's there, and they've got to get that, get this, get that, get this, get that, get that. It felt very similar to, it felt like an hour version of Bond going from place to place to get what he needed, and then.
I almost thought when they were doing the light speed jumping, it was going to be like that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that, I was like, "Well," but then also that kind of confuses me a little bit about not just Rise of Skywalker, but The Last Jedi, because I start thinking, who is this film for? Because is it for casuals or is it for hardcore fans? Because I start getting confused on how hyperspeed in the Star Wars universe works. And you shouldn't get hung up on all the details, but there should be a level of consistency throughout. And they talk about like hyperspace lanes, and the prequels were very good at world building. They were George Lucas almost brought a very Star Trek essence to the prequels, where things were sort of minor details mapped out for you, and he just kind of forgot that he needed to strike a balance between some action and or adventure on the screen. But so I'm just like, well, okay, so hyperspace is not light speed, it's hyperspace, and there's hyperspace lines. And then obviously they throw Rian Johnson under the bus as well, don't they, with that line of dialogue about the Holdo maneuver, which they needed to, because obviously why doesn't everyone just light speed into things and destroy everything? And it's a 1 in a million shot. So because I'm watching that thinking, okay, well, in The Last Jedi, when she pulls that Holdo maneuver, are they in a hyperspace lane? Because I thought they had to enter the lanes, and that's how the balance of power in the galaxy works, that you can't travel through hyperspace unless you enter one of these hyperspace lanes, and that's where they can put blockades and the taxation of trade routes and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. This is what I mean. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather it just be light speed, to be fair, or whatever, or just like warp. They can just do it whenever. But I'm aware that some of this exists in Star Wars canon and lore. So yeah, you start to get confused a bit, and if you're confused, you're not enjoying it.
Yeah, but so sort of picking up from The Last Jedi, going into this film, as I said, there's a lot that we thought that I thought, and I think you thought, as you said, that there was a lot of tidying up of the things that Rian Johnson had put out there. But I mean, as I said, I've only just started looking into reactions thus far online, because I muted everything, and I don't just putting it out there, I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people are saying it is.
No, I think as I wrote in my review, that you can't take this film, you can't be so critical to this film, because you can't review it in a vacuum. I would say as a standalone film by itself, this is like Justice League bad.
Yeah.
As a standalone film by itself. But given what it had to deal with to get the story back on track, given the fact that Finn's character, Finn was he's such an amazing character. And he has been so underused in this trilogy. And it isn't until sort of like 20 minutes into The Rise of Skywalker where these characters start bouncing off each other, and it's back to this is what we had hoped they would be. And it has too much tidying up to do, and it has too much bringing the characters back on track. And I would, judging it by itself, I'd probably, if I out of 10, 2. This, like I say, it's Justice League bad, but based on what it had to do, the context of the wider saga I'll come back to later, but based on what it had to do, I've got to give it a solid sort of 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that there's something on screen that is at least enjoyable if you transformer it, if you just kind of step back. It's not like Transformers Last Night kind of bad. If you step back and just enjoy the spectacle, it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, there was a lot visually. It was a very pleasing film, in like special effects and sort of like all the little throw-ins they did and all of that. I thought was really good, and you can tell now with this film in particular, it is just almost one giant commercial for cute toys and cuddly toys that Disney are just going to be pumping out in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I did think it was interesting though. Did you see how many like nods to? I felt there was almost more reference paid to other films that J.J. Abrams loves than Star Wars.
Yeah.
In some point, there's a lot of tons and tons of Star Wars references in it, but there were so many bits at some points. I thought if Star Trek 2009 was J.J. Abrams' Star Wars showreel. Here's Star Trek. Oh, by the way, look how good it is. You want me to do Star Wars? Yeah. Large parts of this were his Indiana Jones showreel.
Yeah.
Huge parts of this, going around gathering little MacGuffins and stuff.
Like the whole Death Star, the crashed Death Star when she's going around that. It's very Raiders of the Lost Ark, isn't it? Sort of the way she's exploring.
Yeah, there's like large bits where sort of like Poe and 3PO bouncing off each other. 3PO was good at this. I think they,
Yeah.
No, I don't think it went over. It was an overkill. I thought, I was like, finally at last you understand what 3PO is. Don't fart around with all the other characters. And I know Finn started out as so compelling, and like you said, when he picks up that lightsaber at the end of Force Awakens, I mean, I always thought that was the hook, because Finn was reduced to comic relief, side questing.
Yeah.
And in this we see them on adventures, Indiana Jones style. And it doesn't fulfill Finn's arc of a stormtrooper who turns good and exploring that, because especially considering that Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, is to me the main bloody character in this entire, is at least the most consistent character in this in this trilogy, and gets a full arc.
I was thinking about that just now. I was just before we started recording. I was like, just reflecting on it all, and I was like, I don't think Finn really had a satisfying wrap up on the end of his story, other than he got his bromance back with Poe.
Yeah,
and that was about it. And I was like, oh.
And I guess because the idea was that the whole your parents are nobody, they're nothing, in The Last Jedi, was that anyone can be one with the Force, and that anyone can be a hero. And that is obviously, that is a noble message. However, we already know that not anyway. It's not about your parents, because we already know from the prequels that, quote, anybody can be born a Jedi if they have the midichlorians. It just so happens the reason it's Skywalker saga, if anyone had paid attention to it, it's that Palpatine, essentially, he's the one who creates Anakin.
Yeah.
So there is that sort of like that bloodline, that lineage thing. But actually, going back to the Jedi Order in the prequels, anyone, there's potential for anyone to be a Jedi. There are going to be people who are just born Force sensitive, probably to parents who aren't Force sensitive. But what I love most about Finn was the fact that he, in Rise of Skywalker, he shows some Force sensitivity. But the point is that he doesn't care. At that moment in time, Force Awakens, he doesn't give a shit. He picks up that lightsaber,
and he everyman, wasn't he?
And he tries to take on essentially a Sith, even though he just from pure heart, and that's brilliant. That should have been the hook. If anything, Rey in Last Jedi spends all her time doing the training, and you focus on Finn trying to be a better hero. Well, first of all, you should really, Finn shouldn't have been healed in 2 seconds. That really, again, that pistol over his art that he actually got potentially disabled.
Yeah,
fighting for what he believes in. It's wasted. But Kylo kind of now steals the show, really, and he kind of does leave a bittersweet taste in your mouth, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm Rey Skywalker. You're not, though. You're Rey Palpatine, and all the Skywalkers are now dead.
Tell the lady your real name. Go on, I dare you.
I mean, to be fair, saying Skywalker is if people knew Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker, that's just as bad a thing, really.
Yeah.
Because not everyone will know that he redeemed himself by the end.
Yeah, there was lots of good things, lots of bad things. I thought it was funny how not funny, but how the Rose character basically got reduced to a Jar Jar Binks role in the episode 2 and 3. Where they built him up to be this big character, and then they're just in a couple of scenes saying a couple of lines,
just sidelined.
Yeah,
that was the frustration with The Last Jedi, was that the story was written and the characters squeezed into it, and at no point in The Last Jedi should really many more new characters have been introduced. So obviously Empire, they introduced Lando, but that fits the story. Lando needs to be introduced because it fits the story.
Yeah.
Now, Holdo makes sense, but obviously I'm not going to get into that. That is a massive another story for another time. But Holdo makes sense to introduce her. Not how it plays out, but makes sense. Rose is literally introduced just to give Finn someone to hang around with while he goes off and does his side quest.
Yeah.
And I would have rather than just been honest about it and gone, actually, do you know what? For the first two acts of that film, Finn he's basically he's incapacitated. Finn is in a coma, he's healing, and it's not until the third act when he comes back into it, because for what he has to do in The Last Jedi, he might as well just been in the healing tank.
Yeah.
You know, and then it would have given his character a bit more, again, a more triumphant return. If like the first act he's healing, second act he's rehabilitating, and then he throws himself directly into the line of battle and in harm's way again, even though he's barely blooming healed. It shows that strength of character he's got, and it will always be this trilogy's biggest failing is not using Finn effectively.
Yeah, because he was a great character, and unfortunately, he just didn't get the story up he deserved. Is my opinion. But
and then if you've got a stormtrooper who turns good,
yeah,
and then you've got another redemption of, you've got Ben Solo, who, well, you know, again, forget Last Jedi, because the way it's presented, how he turns to the dark side and attacks Luke, doesn't make sense to me with the flashbacks from The Force Awakens. It feels like he would have gone on to become evil and come back with Knights of Ren to do whatever anyway. You could have framed this entire trilogy through the lens of the bad guys a lot more. So you could have spent a lot more time with Kylo and Finn exploring these people who work for the First Order aren't all bad. They're just conscripts. They're just brainwashed. And that would have been a more powerful message as well, that not only are people able to be heroes even if they don't have the Force, but also that understand that not everyone's bad just because they are forced to do something or forced to work for someone who is bad.
So I think, just thinking about it, but that's something I did want to point out as well, is I didn't buy the Hux thing.
No.
I was just like,
I do. Sorry.
How do we get rid of this character? We'll do that.
Yes, well, again, that's another, not middle finger, but another wrong that the Rise of Skywalker had to right, where Hux goes from this formidable Tarkin type to a bumbling buffoon that is, we're talking like they reduce Hux to someone who would make Cobra Commander and Shredder in the cartoons look competent, so they just get rid of him.
Yeah.
You know, and people have said, oh, it's obvious that Hux would have been the spy kind of thing. It's like, actually, it's not, because I don't think anyone remembered Hux was around at some point to be the spy. Richard E. Grant, that I thought that he was General Pride. It was a highlight of the film, I felt, because that was a proper Imperial bad guy. That was back on track.
Yeah, it did. It reminded me of the sort of like the OG trilogy. So.
Yeah. He wasn't just going, do this, rah, 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 shout, rah, rah, rah. It's like he's a bad guy because he shouts. It was more refined. It was back to, these people are they're military leaders. You know, it worked a lot better. But again, you're having to introduce another character, because there's no way in this film you could have made Hux to be formidable like that, because he was assassinated. His character was assassinated in Last Jedi. And then it does make you, again, sort of like miss the fact that the First Order weren't explored enough, because the First Order, I guess they come from the unknown regions, and then, but Exegol's in the unknown regions, and then they go back to the unknown regions, and Palpatine's back, but he was controlling a puppet Snoke, and then he's got a fleet of Star Destroyers under the ice. Why are they under the ice? How they get... What was a backup plan during original trilogy, or were they built after the original trilogy? They're going around collecting these white wayfinders and going to Exegol, but all the Final Order people are still there. Thousand. It's like kind of what's going on.
Mm.
Lots of leaps of faith in this one, but if you take them, you have a good time.
Yeah, I think obviously this is becoming a lot bigger than just a Rise of Skywalker review. I think I'm gonna have to watch The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi again, and maybe we should do like another episode just as a sequel trilogy review as a whole.
Yeah,
I
think
Last Jedi stuff
yeah.
that I literally is just going right over my head because I'm just like I can't even fucking remember.
I think it might benefit from a sort of like either a commentary series on the trilogy, or basically a massive breakdown of the trilogy. But then again, is it worth it? Because I don't know. I just, to me, this trilogy now kind of it's because I don't really like The Last Jedi, and this film is messy because it has to fix so much of what The Last Jedi broke.
Yeah,
and the fact that Palpatine's back now, he's gone, and it's like, but Rey killed him, but then it's also what he wanted. So if Rey killed him, why didn't he take over Rey? Because he wanted her to strike her down. Then he thought, oh, I heal myself with her and Kylo, and then she kills him anyway. But then the Sith don't enter. I don't know.
He wanted her to kill him out of revenge, but the way she killed him wasn't out of revenge.
I don't. I think
he just got destroyed by the Force.
Yeah, I think
because
to be fair,
it's the Force, not her hacking him to bits with a lightsaber.
I suppose there must be some very fine print in all this stuff, mustn't there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this trilogy kind of like, if you like it, brilliant. If you don't, the great thing about it is you can actually now put it to one side and ignore its existence.
If you don't,
which is a shame.
Watch The Mandalorian.
Yes, which is a shame though, because Finn, we need justice for Finn.
Maybe they'll invest $200 million in his standalone film, like Solo.
Oh, I dread to think how much The Rise of Skywalker cost with all the reshoots. About 75% of the film was reshot.
Yeah, I think the budget that they've disclosed is around about 300 mil. But you said, sort of in wrap up, giving it say like a marks out of 10, you said a 2 for a standalone film.
Yeah.
6 or a 7 for part of the trilogy.
Yeah, based on what it had to achieve, I don't think anyone could have done any better, really, with it.
Yeah.
Because where do you go from The Last Jedi? I mean, the final shot of The Last Jedi is that kid looking up to the stars. That's the end of a trilogy. That's Rian Johnson.
End of this film, pretty much.
Yeah, Rian Johnson decided to pretty much end the trilogy in one film. And you're like, all right. Now, if you were to cut off 30 minutes from The Last Jedi, you stand a better chance. But it was kind of had a sense of finale to it.
It is. It is a shame that there was a lot of great potential for the trilogy, and it's a shame the 2 sequels are pretty much just trying to fucking wipe out what happened in the film previously to it and roll out its own paths.
Actually, no, you are true, because The Last Jedi pretty much ignores and tries to carve its own pathway from The Force Awakens, as if Last Jedi saying Force Awakens was too derivative, have this. And then, now JJ's back with The Rise of Skywalker saying, well, no, actually, it comes down to leadership at the top. Marvel, Kevin Feige at Marvel would never have allowed this.
Yeah.
Although he like James Gunn, for example. James Gunn can bring a lot of James Gunness to Guardians, but he still has to, it still has to fit into the MCU.
Yeah.
This trilogy just had no plan, no creative vision, and Kathleen Kennedy, she did what she thought was right, I guess, but she obviously she didn't have herself a plan for the trilogy. So when JJ says, this is what I want to do, she goes, brilliant, that sounds great. And then Rian Johnson says, this is what I want to do. She goes, brilliant, that sounds great. And it's like, yeah, but they don't mesh, they don't fit together.
Yeah.
And then this one, obviously, the rumor is what is out in cinemas is the Bob Iger version of this film. There's actually a George Lucas and JJ cut, and there's tons of footage of Matt Smith as a whole new character on the cutting room floor. and the 75% of reshoots, they took some Colin Trevorrow ideas. George Lucas came in with JJ. They did this script. They shot a ton of it. Bob Iger said no, 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 and then they ended up with what's on the screen kind of thing. Either way, no matter what, this film was always going to be a disaster.
We'll see in the next 6 months what comes out.
Yeah,
what's revealed and what's not. But I think in terms of sort of like a trilogy discussion overview, maybe leave it to the audience if they want to hear that.
Yeah, I will say it is actually. After watching it, I went back and I started thinking about the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. The first, like obviously the first 3 films before they started doing all the cash grabs. And other than World's End, which is like way too long, but I've always felt that World's End needed to be, look, just because you did like a really long film last time, you can make this a smaller film.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean films now, as the years go by, they are looking better and better to me.
Yeah, they're still great. The original 3.
Just the way they sort of like do the action adventure. I think it's no wonder they became so popular.
Yeah. But anyway, so not the best ending, but it was an ending.
No, it's a shame.
Yeah,
it is a shame. It was 2015. There was so much hope out there, so much hype, and now we kind of come out with a bit of a whimper. And Force Awakens opened to something ridiculous, like 250 odd million or something at the domestic box office. What did it open at? 245 million. Force Awakens. Last Jedi 220 million, which is that again. It goes to show how much people did like the Force Awakens. And then Rise of Skywalker this weekend is open to 175.5 million.
Yeah,
I mean that's a huge drop off.
Just backlash. Last Jedi backlash.
There's a huge drop. You know, between the Force Awakens and Last Jedi, that's about 700 million worldwide box office fall.
Yeah. Between
Rogue One and Solo, it's about 650 odd million box office. So unless I could see it happening because China's not going to deliver. Rise of Skywalker's already flopped in China; it's done. So unless all the other markets come out strong, let's see. Last Jedi made like 1.33 billion. So there is a strong chance that Rise of Skywalker could make 500, 700 million less than Last Jedi. It really depends. It honestly, but we'll find out. We'll see.
I think it'll probably do similar numbers. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it will struggle to do a billion, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I've been out of the loop with it all, so I don't know, what's going on. It's literally the next few days I'll dig in and see what the people are thinking, see the general consensus, and that'll give me more of an idea of where it's going and where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there we have it. The rise of the podcast.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, and I do apologise for my stinking rotten cold.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Sam. Let's get back into it next year, and we'll do a sequel trilogy.
We should do a year review, a 2-part one where we only do the first half. I think we did that like 3 years in a row. I
think it's tradition that we do our top 10 films of the year, and then we actually get bored and we actually forget to do the second half.
Yeah. But maybe we'll see. We'll put this up. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we can do that though. We could do a top of 2019's been a very interesting year for films. When you were on the surface, I don't think 2019 is a very interesting year for films. But if you scratch a little bit deeper, it is, with Joker making over $1 billion worldwide, The Irishman hitting Netflix, and one of the best films of the year, being pretty much limited theatres and Netflix. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being one of the best films of the year, it not being what a lot of people thought a Tarantino film would be. Because I saw people get up and walk out. Yeah. Because they were moaning it wasn't violent enough. So it has been a very interesting year.
Yeah. All right. So where can people find us? Or obviously if they're listening to us, they found us. But
Yes, well, you can find us on Facebook mainly at Beyond the Box Office, or we're on Twitter at Box Office Beyond, and we're on YouTube here, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.